Wife cheated with C-list actor. I leaked her secret video. Now she's in jail, and he's suing her. I have been going through one of the worst situations I have ever faced in my marriage, and honestly, I do not know what to do anymore, so I figured I would put it out there and see what kind of advice I might get, because it seems like some of you have been around stories like this more than a few times, and maybe someone has the clarity that I do not right now. So here it goes. My wife and I are both 36, and we have been married for 8 years, which makes all of this even worse. Considering our anniversary was literally 2 weeks ago. Anyway, the only real context that matters is we never had kids, and we have always spent a lot of time watching television shows and movies together. She has never really been into hobbies beyond that, and I used to play video games but lost interest in that as I got older. Now there is this show we both know and that I find kind of interesting, but she is completely obsessed with it. I will not name it for obvious reasons, but it is heading into its 4th season and has a decent following. One of the actors on that show has always stood out to her, and not in a good way for me. She has been constantly saying how good looking he is, how great his body is, how amazing his voice sounds, and that kind of talk starts to wear you down over time, because it is not like I can do the same thing without her flipping out. If I talked about some model the same way, she would lose it. So yeah, double standard territory. Anyway, this actor, I will call him Nolan just for the sake of this story, is not exactly famous. You might know his face if you watch the show, but if not, he is basically unknown. Definitely not some big-time star like Leonardo DiCaprio or Willem Dafoe. Honestly, I would not even put him in the B-list, because outside this one show, most of his roles are in stuff nobody has heard of, and I feel qualified to say that as someone who actually knows a thing or two about films. So no, calling him a C-list actor is not me being salty, that is just the reality. Now I need to go back to this one conversation we had where she saw him on screen and started going on and on about how hot he was, and then she just threw out this line about how she wanted him to be her hall pass, and I had no idea what that even meant at the time, so I asked. And apparently it is supposed to mean someone you are allowed to sleep with while in a relationship without it being cheating, which is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. I actually laughed and told her it was ridiculous to even bring that up, and that led to a big argument. But later that night I figured it was not even worth being mad about, because there was no way she would ever meet this guy, let alone get in bed with him. What really bothered me was just the fact that she would say that to me at all. Like you are supposed to be with someone who makes you feel secure and respected, and then she just casually tells me she wants to sleep with another man. Anyway, I tried to be the grown-up and talked to her about how disrespectful that comment was and how the whole thing made me feel, and she said sorry, though I could tell she did not fully get it, but I dropped it and tried to move on. Thing is, over the next few months, she kept making those comments about him. Like at least 5 separate times she said something stupid about how attractive he was either on the show or on social media, and the first couple of times I said something, but then I just stopped because I was sick of repeating myself. Meanwhile, I could not help but wonder why it was so hard for her to just stop doing something that she knew made me feel like garbage. I mean, I have done stuff she did not like before, but once I knew it upset her, I never did it again. So yes, over time Nolan became a real point of tension for me. I started getting annoyed just seeing him on screen, even though in theory, he was just some actor on television, right? Well, wrong. Because then I find out there is this convention coming up in the city next to us, and guess who is doing a meet and greet? Nolan. And my wife finds this out through his social media and just decides she is going, like no discussion. She just tells me she is going and then spends the next 2 weeks acting like a schoolgirl with a crush. It got to me so bad that I finally said something and told her I did not think she should go, especially the way she was acting about it. She gave me a nasty look and walked out of the room, and I thought maybe she got the message, but no. On the day of the convention, I see her pulling a suitcase to the door, and I ask where she is going, and she tells me straight up she is headed to that city to meet Nolan, and that she is going with her friend Susie, who by the way has cheated on her own husband more than once but he has no clue, and they are staying overnight at a hotel and will be back in the morning. And man, I was furious, like beyond words. But I figured I would let her go and deal with it when she got back. In hindsight, I should have fought harder to stop her, but honestly if I had done that I would not know what I know now. So she leaves and the entire day goes by with barely any word from her, just a short text when she got to the bus station and one when she got to the city. After that total silence, I called her maybe 7 times and nothing, which made me think something had happened, because even if we were on bad terms, she still should have let me know she was okay. I ended up going full detective mode on social media, checking all the stories from the convention and from Nolan's page, and finally I spotted her in one, which at least told me she made it to the event. But I was still pissed that she just ignored all my calls. The next morning I hear the front door open and know she is back, and I was half asleep but knew we had to talk. She came upstairs, saw me awake, and tried to act casual, smiling awkwardly as she pushed her suitcase aside. I Asked how the meet and greet went and whether she met Nolan. Tried to keep my tone neutral. She said yeah, it was cool, met him and a few other cast members, nothing crazy, and I said great, but we needed to talk, and before I could go further, she started tearing up and apologized, said she should have asked for my blessing instead of just deciding to go, said she ignored my calls because she was mad about the fight earlier, and that she went out drinking with Susie and left her phone at the hotel, which is why she missed my calls. Now her apologizing caught me off guard because that is not something she usually does, but something about it still felt off to me, like she was trying too hard, but I kept that to myself for the time being. I asked to see the photos she took and she smiled and started showing me, but the way she angled her phone when scrolling told me she was hiding something. I did not say anything, just watched as she scrolled and showed me pictures of her with Nolan and the rest. But here is where it got weird. On the bottom of the screen I caught a glimpse of a video thumbnail, just a small preview, and it looked like a whole lot of skin, like a close-up of a body, maybe naked, I could not be sure, but it stood out, and I knew it came after the photos from the event, so I let her keep showing me pictures and played along, even said how good-looking Nolan was and how glad I was that she got to meet him, but I had already decided what I was going to do next. Once she was done and smiling like everything was normal, I suggested she go shower and freshen up. She agreed and headed off, and the second I heard the water running, I grabbed her phone and went back into the gallery. There was one video, the most recent file in her phone, and I hit play. It was her, no doubt about it. She was completely naked and laying down on the bed like she was waiting for someone, and sure enough, I heard voices become clearer. Then someone walked out of the bathroom, also completely undressed, and it was that actor, Nolan. Even though the angle was a little off, I knew who it was the second I saw him, and just like that, he walked right over to the bed, got on top of her, and I had seen more than enough. The entire video ran for about 11 minutes, but I could not make it past the first part. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. I quickly sent the video to my own phone, wiped any trace from hers, and walked out of the house without thinking. I had no idea where I was going, just knew I had to get out of there. My head was spinning, my chest felt like it was about to burst. I walked around aimlessly for maybe 20 minutes before I realized I needed to sit down and watch the whole thing, so I did, and watching it from start to finish made everything worse. There is no way to explain what it is like seeing the woman you married, the person you thought would never do something like this, getting intimate with the one person who always made you uncomfortable, the one guy she kept talking about over and over, and somehow she actually got the opportunity and took it. How does that even happen? Did she go after him? Did he go after her? Was it mutual? Was she just a fan throwing herself at him, or was it more? I had so many questions and no answers, and the whole thing left me feeling like I had been hit by a truck. But one thing was clear, this marriage was over. There was no fixing it, no salvaging anything. Even a fool would know that much. And yeah, being cheated on is horrible, but something about who she cheated with just made it so much worse. Of all the people in the world, it had to be him. And that is when I knew that letting this go quietly was not an option. I needed to get even, and I needed it to hurt. I went back home eventually and told her I had just needed to get some air because I was feeling sick, and from that point on I tried my best to act normal. Now fast forward 1 week later and she has been in an unusually cheerful mood, laughing at her phone, looking way too happy, and every time I see her like that I cannot help but wonder if she is still in contact with him, if they are texting or sending photos or whatever, and I have been losing sleep just thinking about it. But the one thing I know is I cannot keep living like this, and I cannot just let her walk away without consequences. That is when I started thinking of how I could really get back at her in a way that would stick, and this is where I hit a wall because I had no clear plan. So I read through all the advice people gave me, and honestly a lot of it helped me get out of the fog. So here is what happened. First thing I did was reach out to a divorce attorney, someone a buddy of mine used when he went through something similar and got a decent outcome. We started laying out the groundwork for the divorce. Next step was contacting Susie, my wife's close friend, and probably the only other person who knew the full story. I asked her to meet up and she agreed, so we met at a bar nearby. Now Susie has a bit of a reputation. She is not exactly subtle about the fact that she likes to party and has cheated on her own husband more than once. Not that he knows. Part of me thought about hooking up with her, just to mess up their friendship, but that was not the goal here. I needed information, and if anyone knew what really went down between my wife and Nolan, it was Susie. Now as long as someone else is buying drinks, she is the type to keep talking, so I kept them coming, bought her a bunch of shots, pretended we were just catching up, made some small talk about clothes and handbags, and let her ramble about expensive brands I could not care less about, all just to get her guard down. And once she was clearly tipsy, I went in, told her that my wife had already told me everything about the night with Nolan, told her I knew about the video, and asked how it all happened. At first she froze, like she was caught off guard, but then she calmed down and said my wife had been shamelessly flirting with him at the event and had even slipped him a note with her number. Apparently he sent her a message later that night with nothing but a hotel name and room number. And she went, just like that. Now he is not some big star, so maybe he thought no one would care or find out, but here is where it got interesting. I asked Susie if Nolan knew about the recording, and she seemed surprised I even knew about it. Then she told me no, he had no idea. My wife had done it without telling him and even showed it to Susie and a couple of their other friends later like it was something to brag about, which made me sick. My wife basically turned herself into a spectacle for her friends and did not care. Who saw? Meanwhile IH had been sitting at home thinking she was just going to meet some actors for photos and autographs. I recorded the whole conversation with Susie just in case, and made sure she got home safe, hoping she would not remember anything the next morning. I did not want my wife getting tipped off before I was ready. A few days later my lawyer gave me the green light and I knew it was time to make a move. We were watching that same dumb show one night and I just turned to her and said I wanted a divorce. She started choking on her drink and looked at me like I had gone insane, kept asking if I was serious. I told her I was, and though I tried to keep calm it was weird and uncomfortable. I was not ready to dump everything on her yet, so I just left the house to avoid another breakdown. She called me over 20 times that night and I did not answer once. The next morning I worked with the lawyer to have the papers delivered to her at her job, because I wanted her to feel the same humiliation I had been sitting with. Once I got the confirmation, I went home and waited, and sure enough, she came home about 2 hours later, makeup ruined, eyes red, and the second she walked in she dropped to her knees and started crying all over me. She could not even speak clearly, just kept repeating how sorry she was, saying it was a mistake and that she regretted it, and I just stood there, completely disconnected from all of it. Eventually I asked her, very bluntly, to get up and start packing, and when she kept sobbing I actually laughed. Not because it was funny but because of how pathetic it all was. I walked out of the room and let her deal with it. By the end of the day she was gone, supposedly staying with Susie, and even if Susie remembers spilling everything to me, I doubt she would say a word. What is left now is for the divorce to wrap up officially, because I still have one final move to make, but I want to wait until everything is done and the paperwork is final before I go through with it. I just hope I still feel the same way when that time comes, because this is not over yet. The payments are not going to last forever and honestly, I can live with that, especially considering everything else that went down, because after all the legal back and forth and dragging things out in court, I still managed to keep the house which she fought hard for but eventually lost, and that was enough of a win for me. But once all that paperwork was settled and I had the green light to move how I wanted, that was when I finally got to enjoy myself a little. I had that video saved from the day I found it on her phone. I never deleted it, never told her I had it, and I knew exactly what kind of damage it could do. Because while Nolan might be a C-list actor, he is still known, still a name in the gossip world, and Hollywood eats that stuff up. So I reached out to a certain big-name tabloid, yeah, the one everyone knows that always breaks celebrity nonsense, and told them I had something they would definitely want to see. I made sure to use a throwaway email and stay anonymous as much as possible, not because I thought they would expose me, but because I had never done anything like this before and wanted to be smart about it. Once they saw the video and realized it was legit, I started talking with one of their writers and even got paid a little bit for the footage. Not a life-changing amount of money but still something. And when I say I hit refresh on their website like 100 times waiting to see if they would actually post it, I am not kidding. It took them until the next day, but then boom, there it was. Big headline, picture blurred, article up, and they even used the fake name I gave for her, which made it 10 times better. They made sure to mention that the actor in the tape had no idea he was being recorded and painted the whole thing as a betrayal from an obsessed fan, which honestly was not that far from the truth. I used that same email and sent her a link to the article without saying a word, just pasted the link and hit send, and then I waited, figuring that was the end of it. I would never see her reaction, I would just imagine her losing her mind somewhere else. But 2 days later I get a knock on my front door, and who is it, standing there like a storm waiting to blow through the place? My ex-wife, eyes wide, hair a mess, and all she could say was, "I know you did it, admit it was you." She said it over and over while I leaned on the doorframe pretending to be confused, but I did it in the most smug, obvious way possible. Because I wanted her to know it was me, I wanted her to feel it in her gut, and when she did, it was like something inside her snapped. She lunged at me, hands flying, tried to claw my face, actually knocked me over, but I got her off without too much trouble, and the whole time she was screaming like a lunatic, which brought one of my neighbors outside just in time to see her attack me, so the cops were called and showed up within minutes. And yes, I pressed charges, you better believe I did. It felt amazing, and considering most of her family lives out of state and she had already fallen out with Susie, I figured it would take a while for her to even get bailed out, but even that was just a side dish compared to the main course. Because the real fallout was her facing charges for filming someone without their consent, especially someone with a public image to protect, and while she was not the one who leaked it, the fact that she recorded it at all without telling him was enough. and Nolan's team came after her hard. He apparently lost a role in some new series aimed at teenagers and blamed the scandal, which just made everything 10 times worse for her. His lawyers were top tier, way out of her price range, and watching her burn through the money she took from me just trying to keep her head above water was honestly satisfying beyond words. There were news stories, tabloid covers, people online tearing her apart. One headline even called her a fangirl turned felon, and I saved a screenshot of that one because it was just too perfect. Long story short, she ended up with a 2-month jail sentence and a fine of $1,000, and honestly, that felt light to me, but I will take it, because I needed to see her suffer just a fraction of what she put me through, and I got that. She is sitting in jail right now as I finish this up, and I have never felt more at peace. I can finally breathe again. And to anyone out there who suspects their partner is cheating, do not ignore it, and if you can hit back in a way that makes them regret ever crossing you, do not hesitate, take the shot. Anyway, that is the end of it for me. Thanks for sticking around and take care of yourselves, guys.